Hello everyone, welcome to a new video. This is going to be a chill kind of charting session. Let me start by saying that if you're new to this channel, I want you to know that since this is all free, this is just like my public journal, so I will pretty much chart the same kind of charts all the time because that's the only way to track progress. I'm not going to be adding indicators, different time frames, different perspectives or macro data just to, because in my opinion, if you haven't been tracking them for quite some time, it's impossible to know how accurate all that data could be for your strategy. And in the end, it all adds noise and confusion. So simple, constant is the approach to my strategy, and I think to any strategy, whatever the oscillators, the time frame, or the chart you decide to use, right? Today, I will pay attention to others, total 3, BTC dominance, and USDT, all in conjunction, right? But also from the moving averages perspective, just to see if we find any more confluence that validates our strategy or reinforces all the ideas that I'm applying here for when the real time to take profit comes, so we know, or even to anticipate potential new legs to position accordingly, right? So, as always, I'm going to start with a quick update on BTC. This is my main daily chart, as you already know. This divergence, as I mentioned on Twitter, was invalidated when we broke about 110K. I said that I would like to see all-time high holding this kind of bounce, not only from a technical perspective, but mostly psychological. However, as I posted yesterday, structurally speaking, all these closes, weekly candle closes, let's say, because this is the daily, the candle closes are around 106K, rejection all the time, right? So that's key for continuation, holding this 106K. For now, all good. In the daily today was rejected by the previous all-time high. It's just a daily candle. We are resetting. Nothing really to worry about. I don't really care about this daily candle, in my opinion. We just broke the all-time high, so of course there's gonna be some kind of people saying, okay, this is my exit point, or people trying to short the all-time high. I think it's all just a short time kind of price action, so I don't really care. You could even argue that with this downtrend we are forming a bullish divergence. I don't really care about this right now. I'm not really considering this. So in my opinion, it's all good. Holding 106K, it would invalidate any possible idea of a fake out above previous all-time high. We go to the weekly. We are entering the most overheated stage of the weekly cycle, which is this final area. I want to see RSI crossing 70, which in my opinion, and based on data as well, is the most explosive area. You already know that. That's what I want to see to enter this final stage. And from here, I'm gonna start looking at BTC also from a 200-day moving average perspective, because I said for many coins that reclaiming the 4-hour, the 200, having a weekly cross, those are the requirements for a real run. So if I go as back as I can go here, the previous cycle, the first reclaim after the bear market, right? Constant rejection here, the final capitulation. This reclaim, right? Break and even retest, gave like a 200% move, the first reclaim. The second one was the huge run until the top, almost at 7x. And now in this cycle, we have the first one after leaving behind the bottom in the bear market, was a breakout and reclaim. Perfect price action here around the 200-day. This was the confirmation that we were back, that the new cycle was here. This reclaim of the 20K, even if you don't want to buy the bullish divergence that was building for weeks here, if you don't trust that, this reclaim was the next one, even if you buy this one, right? So this gave us 50, almost a 60% before the drop in January. Oh, sorry, pretty much the top here in January 23. We reclaimed it back in October 23, which I said a few times, please study this because it was looking kind of similar. We had this almost 200% move, sorry. And the next reclaim here in October 24, the next leg. And now we have reclaimed it here in April, and we have only climbed 32%. This is for people who think we are really overextended based pretty much on sentiment, right? This is something, in my opinion, related to PTSD. Every time I think perhaps we are too overextended, I immediately think of data. Is there any data to suggest we are overextending? We have seen oscillators wise we are not. We don't even have a bearish divergence yet since the bottom here in the daily. So data isn't suggesting this is over. This is strong weekly cycle yet. All the cautious posts, in my opinion, have to do with people being wrong and now trying to convince others that they are wrong for being bullish, right? Like more of an ego approach, or people who have been hurt so badly that they are in complete disbelief and worried every time we move forward. And remember, as Bobby said, he's one that I really like the way he sees the market because he has been proven right. This is all fuel, right? The longer we climb within fear and disbelief, the better, right? Because that means many people will probably sell early, will probably still stay sidelined or even short like every potential resistance level. So data suggests that we are good and we are in the expansion period, right? If we take a look at the main BTC chart again for a second, many would say, okay, but what about my alts? Why aren't they really running? Right? So let's take a look at the previous breakout here in late 2024 and what others and Total 3 were doing. Pretty much the same, by the way. Others here in yellow, we can see that they were pretty much climbing together with BTC, right? Until BTC started making this daily divergence, right? Signaling that the weekly cycle was getting close to an end. It took a whole month. We don't know how long it will take, but as I said a few times, the longer it takes, the more impact it will have. This is just like here, right? Like a small 2-4 days divergence, that would just might be a 5% drop. So it depends, right, on how long it develops. We saw that in the previous cycle as well. I want to show it later. From the weekly perspective, I'm going to remove this to make it clear. We go to 2021. You can see from 28th of December to mid-February, that was the first weekly 1 month and a half. But then we have another one, April. So we have like 3-4 months building a divergence. Of course, the drop was huge, right? For BTC and for the whole market, it was building for quite a lot, like a few months. The same with daily and 4 hour. The longer, the stronger. So back to the daily, it was when BTC here broke the all-time high. You can see that that's the moment Total 3 and Total 2 started climbing up with strength. We can see that BTC broke its previous all-time high, so previous local top. And we can see that the moment it started, the others and Total 3 started pushing, they were far from their local top. And it was when BTC started here building this divergence that they really pushed and broke their previous local top. That is something you should bear in mind, that we need price discovery normally. And then we need BTC to start finding its potential top. That's why I said, let BTC run. Let BTC dominance run as well. That means BTC has still way more fuel to go. So the pump for altcoins will be better. Again, everyone wants to make money and as fast as possible. But if I told you, what if you had 6 more months of sideways, and then let's say you have a 50 or a 70x in your portfolio, but you have to endure another 6 months of nothing or just chop? If you knew the result, you would say, okay, bring it on, right? But as we don't know, we just want to make it quick. But giving you like a 5x now, which is very good, instead of a 20, 30, 40% x later in a full euphoria, I'm sure I'm sure you would choose the latter, right? So again, we are in that stage. And if we open this was the November 4th, we go to the others chart, this was November 5th, right? You can see what price action was doing before, faking everyone out. Lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, bump. And you can say, okay, but why? It was only because BTC broke all-time high. Why this sudden move? There was no divergence. There was nothing. It was looking bad. Let's open our dear friend BTC dominance. What was BTC dominance doing? Starting to show some weakness here, right? You can see that these, which by the way, BTC dominance was here, a bearish divergence. These impulses were fake. That was shown here on RSI. And you can see that, interestingly enough, these pushes, even though they were higher highs and higher lows, total 3 and others were not caring that much. We're already pushing. With this first drop, they started pushing seriously. Some chop around here, but they were already climbing fast. Why? This was a fake move from BTC dominance, and BTC was in price discovery. So that's something we should bear in mind. And here we can see the first drop from BTC dominance. I don't know if we will make a high. I don't think so for now. And that was the first impulse for total 3. And let me tell you something. This was BTC dominance on May 7th, the top at around 65.40, 65.40, something like that. May 7th, right? So if we go to I'm going to hide this, not to make it more confusing. May 7th, here. BTC, when the BTC dominant topped, for now, it was around 102K. Since then, BTC has been climbing again, but BTC dominance has been going down. So, BTC dominance, despite BTC going up, it has been going down. That's why I say, what if that's a trap, right? And we open the 200 moving averages for, let me open it here. For others, for example, what do we see? That even though BTC dominance hasn't really rolled over yet, total others is really trying to reclaim this. Not even the drop from yesterday has made it lose this area. It is stuck. It is holding the lower band. Even here in Q4 was worse looking, rejections and lower lows. And then all of a sudden, that's why I say this was a huge trap. Let's take a look at previous examples. This was a whole 2023 summer. People seriously giving up here. And it was coiling. It was a real launchpad, holding above. And then we had the huge explosion from October to March, right? 200% move for the whole others market, right? That's something we want. If we go even further, this is the 200-day. Remember, this is not just the 4-hour chart. We go back to the last cycle when everybody was really tired, like here in January. This was over, all the tweets that I have already shown, and I said there wasn't any reason for that. Climbing above the 200-day, waiting for a real break, and the break was brought to you by BTC dominance rolling over. Again, let's see the similarities here. BTC climbing here, right? We said it was climbing, but others didn't really buy this impulse, as we have seen, and it kept climbing. Let's take a look at this. After this rollover, right, it was others were climbing, of course, with this rollover from BTC dominance, but when BTC dominance found its bottom and pushed again, right, making a higher high compared to this, but unable to surpass the previous one, what did others do? They didn't buy this new impulse. Why? Because they kept climbing even though chopping, and they never lost the 200-day moving average again. It's like they knew what was coming. It could be the same here. Q4, we saw that. And now, even though it's threatening to push back again, still not making a high high. So to 3, with this rollover and this new impulse, only retested the lower bound. Think about that. So we might be entering that. Do we have any more data to support that? Let's open the BTC dominance chart. This is the daily. We mark this area, Fibonacci, we already know this. I said that ideally we get rejected here. So far, so good. The bounce from the very oversold levels and the double bottom on the daily. And what do we have now? Stock RSI potentially telling us that this move is exhausted on the daily, right when it gets rejected here. Like an impulse, but a weak one, like a relief bounce from oversold levels. So could BTC dominance make a higher high and BTC dominating again? Perhaps. That would mean that BTC has way more fuel left. Perhaps we see the next impulse until the next Fibonacci level at around 135k, I think it is. But BTC dominance is telling us that perhaps altcoins are showing strength compared to BTC dominance, right? If this is the, again, others chart, but I can compare it to the total 3 as well. We can see total 3 is pretty much doing the same, making higher highs, higher lows, and above the 200-day moving averages. I think altcoins are not really buying this, right? This is the, I'm gonna close this. This is the daily, right? So the moment here in November, others broke the RSI EMA was when BTC dominance decided to roll over. Here, I think it was yesterday. Thursday, yeah, Thursday, Friday. We tried on Thursday, but it got rejected. It wasn't its time yet. But the moment it does, like it did here, we start climbing again. Last big impulse when BTC dominance decided to roll over. We have just seen that BTC in the daily is looking a little bit exhausted. What if it just rolls over? The only thing that I should be cautious about with BTC dominance is this attempt to reclaim the 4-hour. All right, this might just be a fake out. So this could be a higher high, this could be a lower high, a lower low, sorry. This could be a lower high, and then we broke it, and we will break again, because we saw in Q4 we need that for a big run. After being reclaimed, this was all the correction we've had, and then we had this big breakdown, which was the daily that we have seen here in May, early May, and we need that to go down. And for a huge old season, as I have already mentioned, BTC dominance needs to break this decisively. In Q4, we had a fake out. 2021, trying but getting rejected, coiling here, dropping tremendously, and we have the huge old season we are looking for. What about from the USDT perspective? Okay, this is the USDT chart. I'm using the lines instead of the candles, right, to make it cleaner. And I'm using the 200-day moving averages, right? And we saw that here, October 23, when they really lost it, we had a big run for altcoins. That was the big run until the Q4, sorry, the top in Q2 2024, the cats and dogs and frogs season, right? At this high time frame support level, there was wicks here. I'm gonna show them just to not confuse you. Right, this was the big high time frame support. The deviation here, right, marking this was a very divergence on the RSI, and then we break again below the 200. What do we have? Q4 run. Find double support here, double bottom, confirming this was the support again. Another divergence, and now right battling the 4.5 mid-range support. What do we have now? We have a USDT fighting the moving average and getting rejected, right? This bear flag that was to the downside. We can say this is a lower low, perhaps this is a lower high, could be this a lower low, this could be a lower high in this small time frame. It confirming that this is not support anymore, together with rejection here, and we open the gates to this new level. It's interesting that the 200 is particularly at this level acting as support, as resistance now. Here it was a resistance as well, but making higher highs and higher lows because it was turning around the downtrend. So here, until we find some kind of resistance, which by the way, this is my main target for taking profit, as I said a few times, everything looks good for continuation, especially for altcoins. So I think it's very, very interesting. We can see again, let me just remove this. Others coiling really, really, really strongly, in my opinion, for a new leg up. People shouldn't really give up at this point. There's from a structural point, you already know what I think. Let me open a different chat where I already have the layout. Candles, yeah. Okay, so these are the ranges instead of with the oscillators, with the 200 moving averages. It is not a coincidence what this structure is doing, where it is getting rejected and where it's finding support. Rejected, support, previous support, rejected again by the moving averages, couldn't hold, so it becomes resistance, and we are now trying to reclaim again. So when we reclaim, off we go. But all this battle is happening, as I say, in the upper range, while making high highs, high lows. So right now, even if I don't have oscillators, which oscillators would tell me if the trend is changing, or perhaps could help me try to time the new leg, right? But this is enough for me. In my opinion, it is way more important to reclaim the moving averages, right? Because we have seen that oscillators sometimes they get rejected by moving average, or they just take longer to start moving. So it's all a whole pack. It's not just one or two indicators by themselves. So above the 200 moving average, off we go, right? We got very overextended here. We started chopping until finding support or losing it. This is Q2 2024. Reclaim here, overextension for quite some time, for a few months, like November to March, everything getting overheated, very separated from the average, so to speak. Pretty much the same here. We could have made something like another push here, but that's when we saw the daily cycle weakness. So that told us that perhaps it wasn't the time to keep pushing and attacking all-time high. But again, being above, that's why we could see this whole explosive move here, despite having been so long above the moving average, because we weren't really that far from the moving averages. It was like a constant reset, chopping, but always above. This was like another time of vertical accumulation or coiling up for the big explosive move. Same here in summer, we reclaim it, we retest it, we have another go. We lose it, bear market. 2017. How about that? Complete accumulation, first impulse, but again, all the time above, until we lose it. We have a fake out here and it's over. And then we try to find new support. Again, the 200 is key. We don't know how hard or how strong this impulse will be, but I believe once I reclaimed it, testing the all-time high won't take too much long, in my opinion. It could happen this cycle, this weekly cycle, I mean, if BTC dominance allows for that. That's all we should. I'm gonna change the color because it's a bit annoying. So BTC dominance has to allow for others to really push. But again, remember, this is way more important because BTC dominance can still chop around, and all this allows for the altcoins to run. So that's why this is mandatory, right? Because we saw this big drop from 60 something, 65.5 to 62, and we saw, well, some altcoins really didn't do much. Yes, because they were still below the 200, and below, yes, you have some impulses to come back to it, but it's above when we explode. So I think everything looks good, no matter how I see it. If you get lost in daily noise, daily price actions, perhaps you can have a really hard time. But I don't think that's the approach you should have. I'm gonna remove all the indicators as well and go back to the stock RSI. Right? Again, the daily still taking its time, but higher highs, higher lows. I think everything is just a matter of time, and BTC dominance with these daily potential reversal will tell us if we finally test this again in this rollover, chop, and off we go. Down we go. So this is a break of a structure, a lower low, lower high. We test this again, and we enter the 200-day moving averages kind of territory. Because if we take a look at the BTC dominance, this is the daily. As I said, here around the 70, 61, 60, something like that. What do we have? 61, 60. Yeah, the 200 moving averages would coincide with these cluster area that, as I said, we should break. Remember that the time, if you take a look at these only from the only from the Fibonacci or levels, yes, you could say it's an important one, chop, but we don't really have any reference of what could happen next. However, if we open the 200 moving averages, we can say that it got rejected. It's below, so it's a matter of time. Perhaps you can add here the oscillators to see what might come next. But the longer it takes below, it means acceptance. The same way above the average, right? So we need this to break for the whole season. And by then, the weekly, which by the way, it's doing pretty much the same as here, as we have said. I would like to see a close below the MA. By then, the weekly is would be rolling over, and the monthly getting close to the moving average as well. So, as a recap, what we need to see is BTC dominance losing 61.60 would mean breaking below the 200 moving averages decisively, losing this, not just a close weekly candle close below, and then, only then, in my opinion, we will have a true old season. The thing is, I wouldn't worry about that as long, I'm gonna open the weekly to make it more clear, as long as we are printing higher levels. So what if that coincides, that a complete rollover from BTC dominance coincide with others in this case, right? attacking the all-time high. BTC dominance completely roll over and others break into all-time high. That wouldn't be crazy at all, in my opinion. So will we have another attempt and get rejected and this weekly cycle is over because BTC dominance isn't done yet, and we have to cool off again until the end of the year, until Q4? Who knows? Will we enter this kind of mania because we broke above and stock RSI, yes, cooled off, but what did the market do? Yeah. The market didn't care. We kept going higher. Why? Because BTC dominance said it's time to go. So that's why BTC dominance is key for our altcoins. I think there's nothing else. The higher we climb without BTC dominance rolling over, we could see that as, let's say, free money, because the real push hasn't really started yet. That's how we might interpret it. I don't want to be extra bullish. I will be very cautious. I'm not going to be trapped again. Even if I leave money on the table, I would rather do that than being under another weekly cycle correction, which means a few months, seeing how my portfolio goes down again and thinking I've done the same thing over and over again, like not taking profit. No, I'm not going to be trapped again. No. I would rather leave some money on the table, because I will, if we have another weekly cycle, you might think that that's worse because we want to cash out as fast as possible. But let's say, or what others do, sorry, I'm gonna use the path, is something like, bam, find support here, right? This area. And the next impulse, I imagine this is the weekly correction. The next impulse is price discovery with BTC dominance really dropping. And we reclaim this as support. Correct. We wick below, even here. We are now, more or less. And off we go, and this is Q4. Right? Would that be crazy? Would that be really that bad? I think not. I think we would already be in profit before the real expansion for altcoins. Again, remember, if I overlay BTC, let me remind you that BTC has crossed the all-time high twice this cycle, while altcoins haven't. Why? Because the BTC dominance hasn't really given up. That's why. It's been climbing all the time. So yeah, BTC is leading. By the time it rolls over, altcoins catch up. What if this next weekly cycle, similar to BTC, we break all-time high slightly, but perhaps we wick a little bit below as this support level, as I said, pretty much what BTC did here, right? This is the previous all-time high. We kind of go a little bit below, and then we have another all-time high, and that's Q4 for altcoins. And full euphoria. What about 5-6x for the whole altcoin market, the others market? With BTC dominance finally here, perhaps that roll over, another impulse, and then completely rolls over to whatever the level it wants to go. I don't think that's a bad scenario at all. And BTC now goes to the next Fibonacci level, as I said, 135k. This is just another weekly cycle, but not the final euphoria phase of the cycle. Think about that. I think that would be a very good possibility, even if it takes longer. But the level of compounding, if this is a weekly cycle that we can play correctly, and then we compound into the final potential leg, the gains can be really big. Just think about that. We have seen BTC correcting sideways because of the constant influx of money from ETS. So everyone who is extra cautious now, it's not because of data. We have seen every day that data is suggesting everything is strong. It's just fear, and the higher you climb, the more fear you have, right? Because you look back down and you see, okay, I'm very far from the bottom. That's why you get afraid. But data suggests that it's all good. I mean, this is you open the monthly. This is a kind of asset that will never stop climbing. We have the cross and we have this. This is suggesting that we still have room to go. Let's see if here in summer, as I said, this weekly cycle ends with another retest of this of this RSI kind of top. And then we roll over again and we have the last impulse. Something like this. The MA would be by here. By then, we make something like this. And we have the final impulse to very overheated levels, and that's the end of the cycle. Perhaps Fibonacci 1.6, which is 190K. Why not? Remain open-minded, but all I'm saying now might sound good and positive and bullish, but this is very high time frame, mostly weekly and even monthly. But now we close these charts and we open trade in view and we see the price going up and down every 5 minutes, and that is exhausting you, making you really confused. I remember one of you, I'm not saying this in a wrong way at all, one of you told me around this job, okay, and I said holding 102.5k is bullish, it's great. And all these weeks I remember some of you saying BTC is losing 102k, like saying what do we do now? Jesus Christ, this is just intraday moves, let alone the daily candle close. This is just some kind of advice to you. Relax. Crypto is so volatile that playing the high time frame is enough to make a lot of money. I don't think it's worth the stress and the health that you lose and will never recover, by the way, because you can keep compounding money all the time, but not health. And sometimes we forget that. Just let it all hold and play. Even this potential scam and the flash, the quick liquidation flash we had last Sunday, what is it now? Nobody remembers that. Why? Because price goes up and that's all we want, right? So forget about the daily noise and even the hourly noise. Focus on the weekly. That's my honest advice, and I have already said that a few times, but we have new followers, so I want you to know what I think. So again, everything looks good from the 200 structure, oscillators, weekly. We just have to wait. And honestly, if you ask me what I want to happen, I will say again, I don't care. I will just take the market gives me. But considering how everything is shaping, logically, I would prefer this to be a normal weekly cycle, correcting in summer again, perhaps to current levels, right? From 130k, something like that, to current levels, and then we have another impulse to attack perhaps a week above 200k, something like that. That would be huge for us, but we have to wait and we have to play in between. Again, that would be the best. And then we can perhaps forget until the next bear market, however long it takes. It doesn't matter. We will be here monitoring until we find strength again in the higher time frame. And we compound again. And that moment, when you buy low, really low, the bear market bottom low, with decent gains, I'm not going to say huge gains, decent gains from the previous boom run, like this one, that's when you ride the market completely free of stress, because your entry would be around this. Would be around this weekly divergence. By the way, this is the area in November when I posted the European Central Bank calling BTC a fucking scam. And thank you for the bottom confirmation, by the way. That's when you start adding, when you see, or perhaps when you see a reclaim, because we don't, this is obviously in hindsight, but we see the reclaim and I say, okay, perhaps I'm going to add here 20K. Yes, we have another drop. Do you have more cash? We'll make a bullish divergence. The same way we have spotted it daily back in April reinforces the idea, right? So yeah, I have more cash even. Good, a discount, because this reinforced the idea of a bottom. Even the monthly, if I remember correctly, the monthly was already forming as well a bottom area. Here, this is the bottom area. Very oversold levels, and after dropping a little attempt and dropping again, it went from June to December. This is how a bottom area looks like. RSI like chilling finally at some point. Stock RSI can't even go lower, and then the weekly we see the divergence and we start adding. We reclaim this, we break above the for the first time in February. Even if you buy this candle, it's still 23K. And then you just chill over all these monthly corrections. Who cares when you are positioned like here? You can hold this. And perhaps when you see BTC dominance finally rolling over, you can add your altcoins to your altcoins. You haven't lost money here, and you can keep compounding, right? You don't have to anticipate a rollover, because then you see your altcoins dropping because you moved early from BTC before getting any signal, because you want more or you want to maximize your bags, and then you just end up losing money, perhaps temporarily. So you can see how the next cycle could really, really change if we time or try to time the moves without being too greedy. Neither with the entries, neither with the exits. And I will try to be here, make this small group profitable, right? So we can all make money out of this. Okay, it's been a long, chill video this weekend. Perhaps you don't have nothing better to do. I hope you do. And while the market is just chilling, as normally at the weekends, you can have some kind of update and perhaps some useful information. So until the next time, take care. See ya.